Welcome into Instant Reaction, Indianapolis Colts podcast. I'm Casey Vallier, joined as always by Colts Ring of Honor wide receiver Bill Brooks, and we're reacting to the Colts' first loss of the season as they fall to the Rams on the road, 27-20. Bill, it's a really tough one to swallow.
It is. It is a tough one to swallow because it's a game where you went out there knowing that you have been playing well for the previous 3 weeks and you've come out with victories on those 3 weeks and you offensively, you've moved the ball down the field, you haven't turned the ball over. So you've played good football and the style of football that you want to play. And going into this game, you start off pretty well, but it seemed like every time you want to separate yourself from them, there was a mistake. There was a penalty. And these were self-inflicted wounds that they happened to make on themselves. And unfortunately, it hurt them. And, you cannot win games like this where you're playing a good opponent and a quarterback that is, he probably will be in the Hall of Fame once he retires and goes to the time limit where he has to sit out as far as waiting to get that call. But he's a good quarterback. He knows how to play the game, and he can pick you apart if you pick you apart if you give him the opportunity. And the Colts gave him the opportunity by making mistakes out there. When you make mistakes, it makes it very difficult to win football games in the National Football League. It's difficult to win them without making mistakes, but when you give a guy like Matthew Stafford that opportunity and the LA Rams that opportunity to capitalize on your mistakes, it makes it very difficult to come back from and win those games because they do capitalize on your mistakes. So it's a tough game to swallow. You know what? But the thing I would take from this game is the issues that they had, there aren't talent issues, meaning that it wasn't talent that caused you to lose this game. It was issues by not doing the things you're supposed to do, by making mistakes that are fixable. And hopefully you can fix those mistakes moving forward, especially this upcoming week as you prepare for your next game.
No, absolutely. I mean, the whole adage of more games are lost in the NFL than won. I feel like that really applies to what the Colts did in Los Angeles. And, throughout this show, we're going to talk about, there were areas to clean up, but I think there were also a lot of positives. You just talked about it there, that it wasn't a talent thing that got you there. But you did mention the self-inflicted wounds I think that the Colts had today. I kind of summarize them up in four big bullet points. The Colts committed 11 penalties. They lost the turnover margin. We do have to talk about the A.D. Mitchell drop of the football right before the end zone, but like the one that made everything come to a head, the 88-yard touchdown by Tutu Atwell. You've got 10 guys on the field, and Mekhi Blackman, who was on Atwell, trips. So it's like all of that stuff kind of leads to it, but starting with the top of these areas to kind of improve on as you move forward into the week, as you prepare for the Raiders coming up next weekend. The penalties. This is now the
Yes.
second time the Colts have committed double-digit penalties in a game. The penalties, you just cannot have them, and especially when the penalties come in such pivotal areas. I mean, we had the one that was, would have been a 50-plus yard touchdown run by Jonathan Taylor that was negated because of a penalty that ultimately I don't think really made a big impact on the run. I think Taylor was going to make that run regardless of the penalty. But you talk about that one and all the other ones. I mean, 11 penalties. You just can't have that if you want to win a football game.
Exactly. You can't have those penalties if you want to try to win football games in the National Football League. And having that penalty with A.D. Mitchell holding and Jonathan Taylor making that run, no, I don't think if A.D. Mitchell doesn't hold him, I don't think that guy is going to make the block. He's not going to get there to get Jonathan Taylor down and make the tackle. So I think it was a play that A.D. Wish he could take back. That he grabbed him and he did hold the young man there. But it's one of those things you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position to make those penalties and make those mistakes. And unfortunately, the Colts put themselves in a situation where they did make a mistake as far as AD making that penalty. But you can't have all these penalties, especially it seems like the penalties came when the Colts are trying to get in the red zone or were in the
Yep.
red zone. And when you're in the red zone, you can't make those mistakes because it's vitally important for you to go and try to make touchdowns and not field goals. And I know the one that where Tyler Warren got the push off and they had to move it back out of the red zone, and then unfortunately they couldn't get in the end zone, but they did get a field goal out of it, but it took away 4 points. from the Indianapolis Colts. So you can't have those penalties, especially in a situation where you're going in to score and hopefully score a touchdown, and then you just shoot yourself in the foot by pushing yourself back and getting out of the range in regards to try to go for it on fourth down or whatever, and to get in the end zone. And the Colts couldn't do that, and they had to settle for a field goal. So those are the type of plays that, you know what, you can fix those plays because those are things that you just have to work on and those basic fundamental things that you have to get better at. And it means that, hey, not pushing off or not holding or grabbing someone or not jumping off sides or things like that. If you can fix those mistakes and just stick to the fundamentals, when you get down those areas, you can hopefully be successful and score touchdowns and not just field goals. But that's something the team's going to have to work on when they get back. And you want to work on those things now. Don't let them just say, hey, we'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. Work on it now. So, you know what? When it comes next week, you won't make those mistakes, hopefully, and you can hopefully have a successful game.
Absolutely. And I mean, you did talk about red zone. The Colts were 2 for 3 in the red zone. So that was one positive that,
Hmm.
they had struggled inside the red zone converting to touchdowns. I thought they did a better job of that today, but you
Yes.
did mention that one play by Tyler Warren that was the lone red zone trip that did not result in a touchdown. We talked about the turnover margin, Bill, and through 3 weeks, it has been a major plus, and that was flipped today. Daniel Jones threw two interceptions. The first one on that opening drive. The second one, you're down. You're trying to make a play. Understandable. I mean, you don't ever want to say, "Oh, yeah, it's no big deal. It's just an interception." But in the circumstance of where that play happened, it's understandable. But
Right.
ultimately, you lose with three turnovers. The defense caused just one, so you lose that -2. I know the game of football is a lot more sophisticated than this, but typically you look at the box score, the team that wins the turnover margin, typically they win the game, and that ran true with the Rams.
Yeah, it ran true today. Definitely, you lose the turnover battle, you're gonna more likely lose the game. And that first interception that Daniel Jones threw, from my viewpoint, it looked like he was just trying to guide the ball there and try to make a perfect pass instead of letting the receiver run under it and just run to it and go get it and hopefully get his feet in bounds and make a big play, turn up the field, or get both feet in bounds and get out of bounds. But I'm sure he would love to have that pass back. It looked like it just underthrown a little bit and the defensive back made a nice play on that. So those are things that you want to make sure you don't do, especially early in the game, and it gave some momentum to the Rams. But give the Colts defense credit; they played well. Kind of held them at bay for the most part. But yeah, that was a big play for the Rams, and then. Also, the other turnover, the one in the end of the game, I can understand that. You're trying to make a play, you're trying to get down there, score some points so you can hopefully tie the game up and send the game into overtime, but that didn't happen. And then the turnover by A.D. Mitchell, I know we're going to talk about that, but that was another turnover that the Colts have when going into the end zone, and unfortunately, was touched back and ball came back out to the 20 for the Rams.
Yeah, and that play, I mean, that's what we're going to get to right now. I mean, you think about it, it's the biggest play of A.D. Mitchell's career prior to that last step before the end zone. 75-yard catch. It was on his way to being his first career touchdown. Instead, he fumbles the ball out of the back of the end zone. And ultimately, you just feel for a guy like Adonai Mitchell because he knew the magnitude of the play. He knows what it feels like now. And I'm sure, he is probably like majority of athletes out there. Bill, you were probably the same way. You're much harder on yourself than anybody else is. So I'm sure he is just beating himself up because of just what that play meant. So you almost you feel for a guy like Adonai Mitchell and just a crushing play that he had to deal with in that Rams game.
Yeah, that has to hurt. He made a nice play on the ball, going up and getting the ball. The guy was right there, the defender, but he made a nice play, go up and get the ball, and then took off down the field, and he was gone. I mean, he was in the end zone, and just all he had to do was run into the end zone. But he was trying to switch the ball to another hand. Looked like he was trying to reach for the goal line with one hand. The ball slipped out, went out the back of the end zone, unfortunately. And I know that he feels bad about it, awful about it. And the young man is putting in a lot of work from training camp through now, just working on different things, putting extra time in order to hopefully improve and get better. So he's doing all the right things for a young guy, and it's unfortunate this had happened to him. But the good thing is there are a lot of veterans there to talk to him and hopefully, let him know, hey, look, we still believe in you. We still are going to need you in this game and the rest of the season. So come on, stay with us. Don't let it defeat you. And hopefully, then he takes those words and hopefully he believes in those words and just be able to come back from that. But as a player, there's nothing worse than feeling like, you know what, you let your teammates down. So I know he feels bad about it. I know he feels awful, and he's probably a lot harder on himself than anyone else is. And that's something he's just going to have to bounce back from. And that's part of being a professional athlete in a professional sport. There are going to be things that happen that don't go your way. They're going to be pretty devastating, but you just have to bounce back from them. And the good thing is he has the support of his teammates and the
Yeah.
coaches, and they're going to be there for him and just help him out to make sure that what he takes the proper steps moving forward, that he'll be ready to play and he'll be ready to go out there to make positive plays for the team. I think he'll be fine. You know what? He's a young man that has confidence in his ability, and he should because he has a lot of ability, and he can play in the National Football League. So I think he'll be fine, just as long as he surrounds himself with people that are positive and stays focused on the task at hand. I think he'll be fine.
No, absolutely. Now we talked about briefly about the massive touchdown there at the end. 88 yards. It's Mekhi Blackman falls down, 10 guys on the field. But one of the things I really want to highlight is outside of the big play there by Tutu Atwell, one of the areas we kind of thought about heading into the game was you had to have a plan for Puka Nacua
Yeah.
headed into the game, leading the NFL in receptions and receiving yards, and he just added to his total today. He had 15 total targets, 13 catches, 170 yards, and a touchdown. It just didn't seem like the Colts had any answer at all for what Puka Nacua did, and he single-handedly was probably the reason the Rams offense was able to move the football. Outside of him, it would really the Colts did a really good job defensively.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that Atwell touchdown and outside of Puka Nacua, I mean, that was pretty much their whole offense for the most part. And Puka Nacua he's a very good receiver. Let's not take anything away from him and what he does and his athletic ability and his understanding of the game. But to me, what sets them apart in regards to Puka and what he does out there in the football field is a rapport that he has with Matthew Stafford. Those guys have a nice rapport. They know where Matthew knows where he wants to throw the ball. Puka knows where he needs to be for Matthew to throw the ball, and the timing is just it's unbelievable that he can get the ball out quick, and then Puka knows right where to be for the ball and catches it. And a lot of times you see Matthew throwing the ball before Puka Nacua turns around and is open, and as soon as he turns around, the ball's right there. So it makes it very difficult for the defender to defend Puka. So give those two credit for having the chemistry out there that they can make plays like that. And Puka is just a fine receiver. I'm not going to take anything away from him
Right.
and what he does out there in the football field. But, you hope that guys like that, you can not stop, but you want to slow down so they can't make those big plays. And he made a lot of big plays, especially on third and second down to get first down. Then, of course, that touchdown he made near the end of the game to help the Rams win the football game.
Now we're going to move on from all the bad in this game. We kept that for the beginning, and now it's all positive. Okay, you do get a loss, but I think there was some really good things that came out of it. I think offensively, they proved they could effectively move the ball against a really good defense. They had 333 total yards of offense, which is about 70 more yards than the Rams have averaged allowing per game. So the Colts offense proved against a really good Rams team. They were top five coming into the game. They were able to move the ball. I thought Daniel Jones, he looked pretty well. We talked about the two interceptions. He threw for 262. He had the touchdown, up and down game for the most part. I mean, he completed still 72% of his passes, and I would think you would agree with me on this. I think he did more than enough to get a victory today the way he played.
Yeah, I think so. I think he did some nice things out there. Of course, you don't want the two interceptions, but you look at someone that completed 72% of his passes. That would be more than acceptable if you said, hey, look, you know what? We want a quarterback to complete 70% of his passes, 72% of his passes. I think everyone would take that. And he did some nice things. Did nice things for kind of, the rush came and got him a couple of times, but you know what? And he did some nice things to get away from the rush, from the pressure from the Los Angeles Rams front four. So he did a nice job that way. But you know what, he did what he needed to do. I thought he did some nice things out there. Take away the two interceptions. I think he played a nice game out there, did some real good things. No one wants to throw interceptions. They happen, unfortunately, but you know what? Hopefully, you know, the one thing he did fumble the ball, get stripped of the ball, but
Yeah,
Colts got it back, so that was a good thing. But I think he did a nice job out there as far as outside of that, as far as the strip ball and the interceptions. He did a nice job just commanding the offense and moving the team up and down the field. And that's what you want to see. You want to see someone that's going to move the team up and down the field. So if you take away those self-inflicted wounds and he still moves the ball up and down the field, you never know how this game turns out because the game could be totally different if you don't have those self-inflicted wounds where you're making it difficult to score points. You score a touchdown, then it's brought back. You have a penalty in the red zone, and you only get 3 points out of it. Turn those things around, it's a different ball game.
absolutely. Now, Jonathan Taylor, I don't think he had as big of an impact early as we've typically seen. I think they were a little bit more pass heavy than, utilizing on the ground, but he finishes still at 4.5 yards per carry, had 70 rushing yards, added a handful of catches, I think 5 catches for 20 yards. So, typically you are used to seeing Jonathan Taylor with a 100 at least plus scrimmage yards. That was essentially the case today. I'm going to round up. I know it's 96, scrimmage yards, but I'm going to round up and give him another day of, a 100-yard scrimmage. That's exactly what you're hoping to get out of a guy like Jonathan Taylor. And we talked about the big run that was called back. That would have impacted all of that as well. I thought Jonathan Taylor, when he was used today, I felt like he was used pretty well.
Yeah, when he was used today, I thought he did a nice job, man. I think that's what we expect of Jonathan Taylor when he's used. That you know what, he's going to get positive yards. You know, it might not happen every single play, but there's going to be plays where he's going to get positive yards and put the team in good positions to continue to move down the field and score some points. And then you saw the big play that he did have. Unfortunately, got called back. But Jonathan Taylor, to me, week in and week out, is going to give you what you're looking for from the running back position. A guy that can run the ball hard inside and outside, and a guy that also can catch the ball out of the backfield now. Especially this year, him catching the ball out of the backfield, being a check down for the quarterback. So if the rest of the receivers are covered, check the ball down to JT. If JT's in the open field, he's going to make a big play. He's going to make some people miss. So I think we kind of expect that, and then and at times we probably take it for granted that Jonathan Taylor is going to go out there and when he touches the ball, something special is going to happen, and usually it does. So hopefully we'll keep that feeling moving forward, and hopefully we'll see Jonathan Taylor continue to make those special plays to put the Colts in good position to score points and win football games.
No, absolutely. But I do think we had to highlight a couple more players on offense before we move over to what I think the Colts did pretty good defensively today. But I want to start with Tyler Warren. Got his
Hmm.
first career touchdown. It came in the rushing variety,
Yeah.
but he also had 5 catches for 70 yards. We know what Tyler Warren can do, but I think you saw there, you're in the lower red zone. It's a fourth down play. I'm not saying he's the best player, but a lot of times it's, you think players, not plays. And ultimately, the Colts, the offensive staff, to get that first career touchdown was like, hey, let's give the ball to one of our best players and make him make a play. He's able to get into the end zone. And then you see what he can do from a receiving standpoint. 5 more catches for 70 yards today. Tyler Warren, yet another big performance out of him. Ultimately, we're saying his name every single week.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty steady for the first 4 weeks of his career in the National Football League. He's doing a nice job. I mean, just catching the ball when the ball is thrown to him and also running the ball when he has the opportunity to run the ball wherever they use him at. He's being effective, and that's what you want to do. You want to be able to use people in different ways, and he's so versatile for the coach that he can be used in different ways. He can be used in the backfield. It can be used and tight as a tight end. It can be used spread out wide. It can be used running down the field, also running the ball. So the things I like about Tyler Warren is when he runs a route or any route, that especially that little corner route or sail route, whatever you want to call it, he understands the route because a lot of times you'll see him sit down in that hole or throttle down in that hole, and the quarterback can get to him, and he knows where the hole's at, and he has a good feel for it. So that's a young man that understands football, understands the offense, understands his responsibilities out there in the football field, and it's good to see. And I like to see when he does have the ball running, as I've said this before, I just like his physicality, how he runs the football, how he's going to run over people, and the things that he does out there. So I think what we have seen thus far is just only scratching the surface of what he can be in the National Football League. I think as he grows and as he matures and understands the National Football League a little bit better, you'll see a young man that will get better, and he'll be one of those top tight ends in the National Football League.
No, I agree with you there. Now, real quick, I want to just kind of tip the cap to Michael Pittman Jr. He talked about it last year how for him, when it comes to getting to that next tier of receiver play, it's getting into the end zone. He was able to do that. His third touchdown of the season, he was able to get today. He had 5 catches for 41 yards. So another really nice performance out of Michael Pittman Jr. in this Colts inside this Colts offense. Now, flipping over the defensive side of the ball, Bill, I felt like the Colts were able to create pretty good amount of pressure. Matthew
Yes.
Stafford's a guy who gets the ball out pretty quick, but if you look at the final box score, the Colts had 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. I thought Leatu Latu made his pressure, his presence felt, but then also we cannot not mention Adetomiwa Adebawore. I thought he had maybe his best game as a pro. He finished with half a sack, a couple quarterback hits, but he also had the major fumble recovery from Mike Hilton, who just came out of nowhere. I
Yes.
mean, it was like, I mean, he was almost in the backfield before the ball was snapped, it seemed, as he was able to blitz, get the ball before the handoff between Stafford and Kyron Williams was able to even go off at a Tom Adebawore, Johnny on the spot, being able to get it. I thought Tommy had a really good game, and also, tip of the cap to Mike Hilton, been here for, I don't know, 6 days. He doesn't even know where all the bathrooms and everything is, but he's able to step in and have a pretty nice performance there on, as one of those guys who is arguably the best blitzing corner in the game. He made his presence felt, but Tommy, big game for him.
Yeah, definitely. First, I'm going to say with Hilton there, he did make his presence felt out there. As soon as the ball seemed like it got from Stafford to Hilton, and he just touched it. It seemed like Stafford and Kyron Williams touched the ball, the handoff, the exchange. Hilton was right there to blow up the play and make Kyron fumble the ball, and then at a time where he got jumped on the football and recovered the fumble there, and he played a nice game today. He's done a nice job, done a good job for the defensive line, and for him to get out there and get a half a sack. I might give him another half a sack on that
Yeah, I'm with you.
Latu one. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But he was there in the backfield to get that sack as well. So he's done a nice job, and that's what you want from guys. You want guys that you can depend on. That hey, when they call your number to play, regardless if you're starting or if you're not starting, that you can go out there and play and be effective. And the coaches have confidence in you that they can put you out there. And he's been playing well this year. He's been doing a nice job for the defensive line, making sure that when he gets out there, he's trying to make something happen. And today he did make something happen. And it's good to see that he's out there playing, and hopefully he will continue to play like that and continue to make those big plays.
Well, and he also had the big holding call that
Yes,
he had a nice rush that
exactly.
drew another holding penalty that pushed the Rams back. I think they were close to midfield. That one pushed them back. So that's another part where you feel that presence that it forced the offensive line to draw extra attention and illegally hold him because he had a
Yep.
good rush. So those are really good signs you're seeing out of Tamawa Adebawore here through a couple games here. Now, final thing that I want to talk about, and this is probably something I don't know if anybody's probably going to mention it, but I think Anthony Gould deserves a lot of credit today because in the return game, this was one that I know hearing from Brian Mason, who talked about it last week, this Rams, especially the kickoff game, was an area that they were a little concerned by because the Rams were the best in the league, allowing essentially just 15 yards per return. They were, not. I don't even know how you describe it. He calls it like, these little squib rolling kicks. We saw that on full display, but Anthony Gould did a really good job. He averaged 22.8 yards per kick return, but then in the punt game, 15.5 yards per punt return. What is that number, Bill? You know this now. I always thought if you can get 8 yards on a punt return, that's pretty good because you're almost getting a first down, and that helps when you think about field position. 15 and a half yards per return, that's really, really good in the punt game.
Yeah, in the punt game, that's excellent actually, to be honest with you. But when I played, our coach always asked us to try to get a first down. That means get 10 yards on a
Yeah.
punt return. So if we get 10 yards and get a first down, that's one less first downs the offense has to get to try to go down and score. So for him to average 15.5 is excellent for a young man out there playing the second year in the National Football League. So you see him grow in the special teams area, how he catches the punts, how he feels the punts, and just holding on to the ball and making some guys miss and getting positive yards. And that's something that you want to see from a young guy. And he does that. He's getting positive yards. But the most important thing you want to do back there on punt returns and kickoff returns is make a good decision. That's first. You have to make good decisions back there. Then once you make a decision, you go with it and hopefully it's successful. And if you're going to return the ball, try to make sure on a punt return you get at least 10 yards, and then anything after that is gravy, and it helps the offense out. So today, averaging 15 and a half yards on punt returns, that is excellent for a punt returner. So hopefully he can continue that and keep that number above 10 yards.
Yeah, it was a really good day, I thought, from special teams. It was really good to see Anthony Gould be able to kind of help the offense with those little extra yardage as much as you can there. But
Yes.
we talked about it. The Colts fall on the road, but I'm going to bring up one of the things you always talk about, Bill. The Colts start 3-1 that way through the first quarter of the season. That's a check. They won that first quarter of the season, and now they've got back-to-back home games. They host the Raiders and the Cardinals. 3-1, you lose to a pretty good Rams team on the road in a really, I thought it was a really good game, 27-20. Not a whole lot to hang your head on.
No, it's not. I mean, unfortunately, the Colts lost this one, and but fortunately, they were three. They are 3-1 in the first quarter. They won their first three games, lost this game, and I think if you would ask majority of Colt fans and during training camp or before the season starts, if the Colts started 3-1, how would you feel? I think most people would say we'll feel pretty good about the team and if the way they played thus far for these four games. Now, if you win the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, and you win them 3-1, I know there's 17 games, but that equals out 12-4, and that's pretty
That's pretty
good.
good.
12-4. So even if you lose the last game, 12-5, that's pretty good. You're in the playoffs, so hopefully the Colts can continue to play well each quarter, win the games. But first, they have to regroup, learn from the mistakes they made today, especially those self-inflicted wounds. Get better, learn how to not make those mistakes and put them in bad situations. Hopefully, they can improve on that. And if they can do that, then they have a good chance of being successful in the second quarter. And hopefully you just build on that each and every quarter. So we'll see what happens. It's nice that the Colts are 3-1. It would be better if they're 4-1, 4-0, of course. But
Right.
being 3-1 is nice. Scott, be ready next week to play and hopefully come out of that game, coming back home being 4-1.
Well, as the Colts head into that second quarter, as Bill Brooks likes to break down the schedule, they will be home against the Raiders, who fell to the Bears on Sunday. The Raiders are 1-3 in their first season under Pete Carroll at the helm. My early scouting report on this game, Bill, Geno Smith, the new quarterback in Las Vegas, through four games has thrown seven interceptions, including three in the loss to the Bears. So that is definitely an area where the Colts can look at that turnover margin and they can hopefully be able to keep Geno Smith kind of going in that struggling up and down because he's thrown for a lot of yards. He's been able to bring the Raiders back, but hopefully this Colts team can get out to him early and continue that interception parade that he's kind of been living on.
Yeah, hopefully that's what you want to do. Hopefully you continue to let him throw interceptions and put some pressure on him so he make those unadvised, ill-advised, I said, throws, and guys will be able to pick it off out there in the backfield. So hopefully those guys in the back there, the DBs, linebackers, they'll have an opportunity to make some interceptions, make some big plays. But also, you know what? However they can turn the ball over, get the ball back to our offense, that would be great. So we'll see what happens there. But it's an opportunity to go out there and win a game against another AFC opponent. Hopefully, you just go out there and play well and do your job. And I think the Colts will do their job and do it and make some big plays out there. And if they can do that and continue to do that, then the Colts hopefully should get a win next week at home at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Absolutely. That's the Brock Bowers versus Tyler
Yes.
Warren game. I know a lot of people are anxious to see, so that should be a lot of fun on Sunday. We will break down all of the ins and outs that you need to know heading into that game all this upcoming week. You can follow us on all of our social media channels, Colts.com, all of our podcast channels. We will have you covered wall to wall starting up tomorrow. But the Colts They fall to 3-1 after a tough road loss to the Los Angeles Rams 27-20. The Colts are tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3-1 atop the AFC South division through 4 games, and the Colts will host the Raiders next Sunday. For Bill Brooks, I'm Casey Vallier. Thank you so much for joining us here on Instant Reaction.